John L. Leflore.
John L. Leflore. John L. Leflore.
John L. Leflore.
All right. Hey, kids. Do you know who John L. Leflore is?
No.
No.
Civil rights icons, John Leflore.
People have not learned to accept their fellow men for what they are instead of on a basis of race or color.
I bet you're wondering, where does she come in? Well, let me explain it to you. Ed Leflore, which is my great-grandfather, and Doc Leflore, D-O-C-K, is brothers. And my grandfather, which is Henderson Leflore, and John L. Leflore, they were first cousins. Jim Crow laws were state and local laws that enforced racial segregation in the southern United States. These laws mandated racial segregation in all public facilities in the states of the former Confederate States of America and in some others beginning in the 1870s. These laws were upheld in 1896 in the case of Plessy versus Ferguson, laid out a separate but equal legal doctrine for African Americans. The NAACP was founded on February 12, 1909. Its mission is to promote equality of rights and eradicate caste or race prejudice among citizens of the United States, to advance the interests of colored citizens, to secure for them impartial suffrage, and to increase their opportunities for securing justice in the courts of education for their children, employment according to their ability, and to complete equality before the law. In the 1920s, the Mobile chapter of the NAACP was inactive. John L. Leflore was born in Mobile, Alabama in 1903 to Doc and Clara Leflore. His father died when he was 9 months old. I guess that's why my side of the family did not get to know him. He graduated from Owen Academy in 1920. That same year, he married Tia Beck. She was the granddaughter of a prominent physician. They would go on to have 3 children. Leflore also held a position with the U.S. Postal Service until 1965. After an altercation in a streetcar and other instances, this ignited a fire in him that could not be put out. He and others helped reactivate the Mobile branch of the NAACP in 1926. In that same year, he became executive secretary of the NAACP in 1936. He served as chair of the Regional Conference of Southern Branches of the NAACP until 1945. In 1942, he worked as a staff correspondent for the Chicago Defender, and he also became an associate editor of the Mobile Beacon. In 1945, he served as vice president of the Conference of Alabama branches of the NAACP until 1951, and then he served on the board of directors from 1952 to 1953. The Nonpartisan Voters League was formed after the Attorney General of the state of Alabama and the state court system forced the NAACP to cease all operations in the state. The league carried on the local civil rights struggle in Mobile during the 8 years that the NAACP was outlawed and continued to function long after the injunction was overturned. Leflore was the director of casework from 1959 till his death, including organizing 2 lawsuits which reached the United States Supreme Court. One was Bolden versus Mobile, and that led to the desegregation of the schools. And the other one was Bertie Mae Davis versus the Board of Commissioners of Mobile County. During that time, the leaders demanded the hiring of more Black municipal employees and sued to force desegregation of the Mobile school system. They also filed complaints with the U.S. Department of Justice to open public accommodations to all and launched massive voter registration campaigns to bring a large number of African Americans into the political process. They challenged the constitutionality of Mobile's commission form of municipal government. I wanted to talk a little bit about the pink sheets. These were also introduced in that time. This gave information of endorsed candidates in city elections. They recommended the election of Joseph Langan as commissioner, who had already formed an alliance with Leflore to promote civil rights in the city. He formed this with him and served 4 terms as city commissioner. And his work with Leflore on voter rights, hiring blacks as municipal employees in integration of public facilities. In 1965, he resigned from the Postal Service and served on the Alabama State Advisory Committee to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. He was also appointed to the Mobile Housing Board and served there until 1970. But he was not exempt from attacks. Leflore's home was firebombed. And upon my reading, it said that the people in the Tomlinville area, they didn't think that it was white people who bombed his house. They think it was black people. In 1974, Leflore won the election to the Alabama's House of Representatives. He, along with Gary Cooper, became the first African Americans elected to the state legislature from Mobile since Reconstruction. But his term was short-lived. He died in 1976 of a heart attack. He is buried in Mobile's Magnolia Cemetery. His legacy lives on. There is a monument, as you see here, a historical landmarker in the city of Mobile in the Tomlinville area. It was erected in 2010. Here you see a better view of it with him pictured with Joseph N. Langan, and that's the one who appointed him to the Board of Commissioners on the Mobile Housing Authority in 1966. And their relationship really led to African Americans' equal opportunity in education and business. Leflore Magnet High School is also named in his honor. I must say, going into this project, I did not know much about him, and I felt like, what could I possibly say, or how could I possibly express his contributions and what he did for the city of Mobile? And now it makes me even more proud to say that I am a relative of his and that his legacy will live on. I just want you to just tell your story of how you encountered John L. Leflore, like what was really going on during that time and what happened.
Well, my story with John Leflore began when I was in Meridian. I had never heard of John Leflore, but back then you didn't have cable, and you could only get a few channels on your TV.
Right.
And one of the channels that we got was from Mobile. And he had a regular TV show as well as a radio show. And I saw him on TV. And he would just be discussing all the problems that the city of Mobile was having, dealing with segregation and desegregation and everything. And so our church that I belong to, New Era Baptist Church in Meridian, sponsored a bus trip one weekend to Mobile. And for some reason, the bus driver refused to take us to where we were supposed to go.
Wow.
And he dropped us off on a street called Davis Avenue, which is now called Dr. Martin Luther King Avenue. But it was really an avenue that was predominantly black-owned businesses, mostly restaurants, barbershops, clubs, cafes. And I think I was like in the 8th grade, maybe the 9th grade at the time. Anyway, we had nothing to do that since he just dropped us off in the middle of nowhere and refused to take us to the battleship, the USS Alabama battleship, where we were supposed to be going.
Right.
So I said, well, I'm going to find John Leflore. So I went to a telephone booth and looked him up in the phone booth and called him. And I was just wanting to trace our family history to see if we were related in any kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
To make a long story short, he invited me and my friends, which it was about 7 or 8 of us,
Mm-hmm.
to his home. And he gave us the directions, which wasn't far from where we were, but he gave us the directions to get to his house.
Mm-hmm.
And so we took out going to meet him. And on our way, I guess we looked like we wasn't supposed to be there, but a policeman pulled up on the side of us and asked us where we lost, where were we going. And I told him I was looking for John Leflore's home.
Mm-hmm.
And the policeman said, well, follow me and I'll take you to his house.
Mm-hmm.
And the policeman, we just followed his car, and he took us straight to his house. And once we got there, his wife answered the door and greeted us and invited us in, and it told us how to sit down and everything, and told us that he was in the shower, but he would be out shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And we sitting around drinking all the Coke and chit-chatting with her.
Mm-hmm.
He comes out the bathroom and he walks straight to me. And he says, stand up and give me a hug. So everybody was shocked because he picked me out of everybody. And all my friends want to know, how do you know she's the one? How do you know she's the one? And he said, I can look at her and tell that she's the one.
Wow.
And that day, we tried to trace our history, but I didn't know enough about my family to even answer the questions that he was asking me. But we made a promise that we would keep in touch with each other and talk on a continuous basis with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, we exchanged letters, and whenever he would go overseas or out the country or something, he always sent me gifts like perfume and stuff.
Oh, that's
and,
so sweet.
It got to where it was time for me to start getting ready for college.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually asked Mama and Daddy to let me come to Mobile and graduate from high school from Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And that his wife would pay for my college.
Wow.
And of course, my mom then was skeptical because they don't know nothing about him either.
Right.
They just like saw him on TV.
Right.
But he was the first black in Mobile to be on the school board, the first black elected representative to the state of Alabama from Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
We have several streets in Mobile named after Leflore's,
Mm-hmm.
different ones. He has a school named after him. His home was bombed by the Ku Klux Klan. And he was very prominent, very outspoken, very well known in the city of Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a stand-up guy. Like I say, he was stand-up. My brother-in-law came to Mobile. He was out of work, and he came down here looking for work. And I sent him straight to him. He will find you a job. He will get you a job.
Mm-hmm.
And he did.
Wow.
And if I'm not mistaken, he got my brother-in-law a job at the state docks, which that was a high-paying job.
Mm-hmm.
It still is a high-paying job, but back then it was a very high-paying job.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just a good old guy, and as I got